Well, good morning, everybody. This is David Blackman here in Texas, where the temperature is 37 degrees Fahrenheit as we speak. We actually had a freeze on November 30th yesterday in North Texas. Little unusual, certainly not unprecedented, so we can't really blame it on global warming. But here we are for the Energy Realities podcast, the podcast that I always like to brag about. We start on time. Today we're 4 minutes late, but when I was in the oil
Guilty.
industry, if a meeting started within 10 minutes of the stated time, that was on time. So I'm going to say we were on time today as well. I am here today with Dr. Tammy Nemeth, who is in the UK this morning. How are you today, Tammy?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's a bit stormy here, so yeah, it's good.
It's good. It's normal, right? I mean, you're
Yep,
in the UK.
normal for this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Irina Slav in Bulgaria. I understand it is warm in Bulgaria today.
It's warm in southern Bulgaria today. It's chilly in the west, in Sofia, but here it's sunny, it's lovely, but it does get cold during the night because winter is coming.
Winter
Never
is
fails
coming.
to make an appearance, and this year won't be an exception.
And from his handy bunker in somewhere in Oklahoma, Dr. Stu Turley is here today, our master of ceremonies every week who gets all this ready. How you doing, Stu?
Well, a little panic this morning since I sent out the wrong link, but thank you for being such gracious folks, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
All right. Well, yeah, we are going to have a lot of fun because we're talking about my favorite subject in recent weeks, the global fallout from COP30, the COP30 event that was held in Belém, Brazil, deep in the Amazonian jungle, where they cut down hundreds of thousands of Amazon rainforest trees to build a 11-mile superhighway that to carry these globalist elites, 50,000 of them who flew in on their private jets to the local airport to get them faster into the city center where all the tents were set up to host this thing. It was basically, I didn't even know that until the meeting was ongoing, that the venue for this deal was essentially a circus big top, which actually is kind of appropriate for any event. Yeah. It's anyway, the conference wasn't exactly a rousing success, as I think pretty much everyone in the media is reporting it, and everyone there is admitting. I mean, it's really kind of surprising to me how frank everyone has been in admitting they didn't really accomplish a damn thing over 2 weeks. But Tammy, what is your view on the success or failure of the COP30 event?
Well, I guess it depends on how you're defining success or failure, right? Because if you go to some of the organizations like Carbon Brief or whatever, they list all the accomplishments, of what they believe was accomplished. And I think there's two things that are really important is number one, the agreement towards high integrity voluntary carbon markets. That one I think was really important and is going to have long-term consequences. And then the other one was the statement on in information integrity, or the sort of call for global censorship, which Irina had an amazing Substack on about fact checkers and all this absurdity, but they want to basically make that the law in different countries. And I could totally see Canada going down that road, or the EU or the UK. I mean, they're already moving towards that right now, where you're in the UK, you can't criticize immigration, you can't criticize stuff that the government is doing with respect to the overwhelming of the borders, which is hilarious given that the UK is an island. You'd think they'd be able to stop stuff, but I guess not. And in Germany, you can't criticize politicians at all. You can't say, well, you're a fat loser. That gets you thrown in jail. You can't criticize anything that they're doing. So the EU's already on that trajectory, and it would just be adding one more thing to the list of things is legal for you to say. So the fact that Canada led that, I think, is problematic for North America. And the other thing that Canada was leading on was this high integrity voluntary carbon market, which is a brainchild of Mark Carney. So it's
So it's
interesting.
got to be great, right?
Got to be great.
Gotta be
And
great.
yeah, so they agreed on these different things. The big thing was that America wasn't there, and so then there was all the sort of left-wing media saying China's taking over the leadership for climate from the United States because we have the big bad Trump in there. So yeah, it's interesting the spin that China somehow is going to be the world's climate leader, which they always get a pass on all the coal that they're doing and all this other stuff. So yeah, I think it's a mixed bag. I think there's probably more long-term consequences of things that they did agree on that will be detrimental to the world. And you know what's interesting? I just want to throw one last thing out here, is that when the Paris Agreement was negotiated and signed back in 2015, I was teaching a class on the geopolitics of energy and the environment, and the students were lamenting that the agreement wasn't strong enough and that nothing was going to happen from it. And look where we are 10 years from now. So,
Yeah. Good point. That's actually a really, really strong point. I like to joke around about it, but it's not like these people are going away or
yeah.
stopping their efforts. They continue to push the ball forward on any number of different fronts, and few governments are able or willing to resist the impulse
Yeah.
to follow them, unfortunately. Irina, talk about your take on the whole censorship agreement that was reached.
Well, it is concerning. Did they actually reach a binding agreement or
Well, no,
something?
they did not. Yeah,
Of course, they did not.
right.
There's a lot of talk during those COPs, but very, very little actually happens. Like from what I gather, first of all, there wasn't as much coverage as there was last year and the year before last. That was, quite noticeable. That talk about censorship is really, really worrying, guys. And I've been thinking about sending you out my phone number in case I disappear because of the Digital Services Act or something they come up with
Yeah.
to start shutting us up. So if I disappear for a week, something has happened to me. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm only half joking because now they're talking about tracking our chats, including potentially on so-called encrypted platforms.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. They really, really love their censorship. And I can understand the push for censorship because more and more people are realizing that this whole energy transition business is essentially a scam. And to what Tammy said about the students thinking that Paris Agreement was not good enough. And yeah, we've come a long way over the last 10 years, but not really in the direction these young people then probably envisioned. We've spent trillions on wind and solar. And as David likes to remind everyone, we're still dependent on oil and gas for over 80% and coal for over 80% of our primary energy consumption. So we haven't really done anything transitioning. We've just spent a lot of money on, things that don't work all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
A lot of money, yes.
that's a lot of money. It's like
Trillions and trillions.
trillion or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like a joke. This circus tent was really appropriate, as you said, David. They once again failed to agree on, declaring a necessary phase out of fossil fuels.
Right.
Once again, they blamed Saudi Arabia for it. I couldn't believe this was happening. It's Saudi Arabia, really? The EU refused to sign this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
None
Yes.
other than the EU refused to sign on a phase out, on a mandatory phase out of fossil fuels. It's a circus.
It is a circus. It is a circus. Stuart Turley,
Ah,
up there in Oklahoma, tell us your view on all of this. Particularly, wasn't the U.S. already kind of almost down that road on censorship before Elon Musk bought
oh,
out
we
X?
were so close. And
Yeah.
I yesterday on my website, I got almost 11,000 denial of service attacks. And so they don't like the fact that I try to speak the truth about energy. Physics and fiscal responsibility matter to the grid. Whoa, what a concept. You have in the European Union, UK, all around the world, you have 50 gigahertz through AC. You know, you got to have the asynchronous and you got to have a motion on the grid. The grid is a motion, it's a live machine. Throw on wind and solar, that's DC, direct current. In the United States, we're 60 megahertz, except Japan. Japan is 50 megahertz or 60 gigahertz, whichever one megahertz. Depends on which half of the island you're on. Guess what? Physics and fiscal responsibility matter to the grid. It could care less about what's going on. Now, let's take Bill Gates. Bill Gates, one of my favorite persons. I also have to hand out the two people that have made me more money on my website are Bill Gates and Gavin Newsom. Hats off to Gavin Newsom for being such a clown show. That man has actually driven more traffic to my site. I love all of my California, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, all the people paying high taxes in those areas come to my website. And now here you have Gavin Newsom. I'll talk about him later, but you have him going to COP30 and standing up to President Trump. What a bonehead. Then you have Ed Miliband flying twice, not once,
Yeah.
twice. Holy, what a Muppet show. That man is absolutely horrific in his energy policies. COP30 proved my point that we are bifurcating into two worlds of trading blocks. Those following net zero and those following deindustrialization are going to be offloading all of their manufacturing to China. And Tammy, your article that you pointed out on Zero Edge about China's building
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen was absolutely phenomenal. And let me bring that up here. This was absolutely fantastic. You take a look at Volkswagen. This actually follows into absolutely what I'm talking about, the trading blocks. The European Union is facing collapse. Yesterday, I noticed on X that the Italy prime minister is looking at getting her gold reserves back out of the EU. Does that end the EU? No, but it sure weakens their financial aspects. Tyler Duran is a hoot, and he says Volkswagen says it can build an electric car entirely in China, roughly half the cost producing one in Germany. Why? Energy costs. And it is absolutely, these electric cars are going to be built by what?
China.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, by coal.
But doesn't that make this Volkswagen is supposedly a German company, right? But if they're building the car entirely in China, is Volkswagen now a Chinese company?
But
I mean, seriously.
Kind of like Volvo?
Well, no, it's not.
But I mean, it's
guys.
subservient to China, right? It's dependent on China. This is just another example of how every aspect of this energy transition is designed to make Western countries increasingly reliant on China. Anyway, sorry, Stu.
No, I would add to that the article said that originally Volkswagen had to set up that factory to produce the vehicles for consumption in China. China was making these new rules where you couldn't export them to China, you had to make them in China. Right. But after doing that, they realized, the supply chains are easier. They get preference in the supply chains because it's for China, and they get all of these other things. The they can get things done quicker than in the EU because there's all these reviews and stuff that have to go on. And now they're saying, well, maybe we can make them in China and export them to the EU because it will be that much cheaper.
Interrupt for a second and stop you
Sure,
right there,
absolutely.
because what you just said is that it's easier and cheaper to get permits to proceed in business in a communist country
Yeah,
than it is in the European Union.
Yeah.
And much easier, not just a little easier, much easier.
a lot. Yeah, because the amount of time that they stated in the article was like, was it 18 months difference? Which is significant when
Whoa.
you're, I forget,
Holy smoke.
it was a really large number, and I'm like, wow, that's that's pretty big.
My goodness. Okay, Stu, I'm sorry, you got interrupted there. Go back to
Yeah,
your
sorry.
trading
Oh,
discussion.
I'm having fun. You guys are bringing up great, fantastic points, and that's why I love this podcast. When you sit back and take a look, it proves my point that the trading blocks are changing. The deindustrialization is tied to net zero. Net zero at COP30, I think the COP30s absolutely are eviscerated financially. In the United States, we are about to find out how bad fiscal responsibility and grid physics matter when we get rid of the subsidies. In Texas, where I spent half my time, you gotta love Texas. We have 182 gigawatts of nameplate capacity, but peak demand was only, David, are you ready for this? 82 gigawatts. Now, guess what they're planning on? Data center new demand is 120
By
gigawatts.
2030.
And
Yeah.
in the words of Jasmine Crockett, one of the most incompetent Congress people we have, the math ain't mathing up. I can't math up fast enough to be this stupid. I went to Oklahoma State University, and this is absolutely horrific. You can't put 120 gigawatts of capacity on 180 gigawatt without going financially broke in a system. That's just one piece of the entire United States grid. This is an amazing thing. Guess what's happening to Europe? The same thing. Anyway.
Okay. So the Texas's surplus of capacity, though, is mainly due to the fact, isn't it, that we have built out all this wind and solar, which only operates at a less than 25% capacity factor, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And when you sit back and take a look at the storage, you take a look at everything else, how much extra are they paid to be shut down? Here's where
Billions.
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
In the United States grid, being paid to shut down. In the UK, their pricing mechanisms are so weird. I mean, they pay for the solar to shut down, then they pay for the interconnects to other countries, and it is just absolutely how much extra are we paying as a globe for all of these extra things in the name of clean energy. It is not clean because you're paying to shut down the wind, you're paying to shut down the solar, you're then paying to have the solar panel made, and nobody's talking about end of life on this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's when it's going to get really expensive.
Oh, we're $89 billion for wind only liability in the United States.
Yeah.
That is a liability that's sitting there waiting to happen. And I drive by all those wind farms in Texas all the time, and they're starting to fail.
Oh, yeah. They're getting old and rusty and dilapidated, and it's
Kind of
coming
like
on
me.
a lot faster than the industry claimed it would.
Yeah.
So I have two roundtable discussion topics I want to throw out to the group. The first is Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg in the middle of the COP30 meeting. Greta, of course, for the last year or so has lurched off into anti-Israel activity over the war in Gaza, and God bless her for that, because we didn't need her in this environmental discussion. But now she's back on the climate change thing, and she was in Venice recently, about 10 days ago, pouring dye into the canals to turn them green. is, and I just want everyone to comment on whether or not that's an effective tactic for the poster child for the green movement to be using during COP30. Tammy, you go first.
It's what they do. I mean, that it's that
It's what they do.
performance art that these activists, especially the young people, they push that. There's always some kind of theater. I think it mixes with the whole carnival circus attitude, but I think it's really wearing thin. I mean, they've been doing that kind of stuff for 50 years now, whether it's, they pretend to have a die-in or a lie-in, or they spray buildings with paint and make it look like blood, or, now they're painting the, putting, and I was like, what about the fish and the what happens to biodiversity when you
They
put
say
this
it's
dye in?
non-toxic. It's completely safe and non-toxic.
Of course
Sure.
it is.
Of course, whatever.
Right. So's the U.S. food system.
Yeah, but so I thought it was interesting because now that the whole Palestine thing seems to have dissipated with the whatever agreement that's been done, now Greta's pivoting back to climate, like
Yeah.
a cause she's trying to find to have purpose.
Can't she just enjoy her money?
I know she's worth a lot.
Yeah, maybe start a meaningful career, but I guess once you're a cause warrior, justice warrior.
Has anybody thought to sit back and look at her parents, what selfish beasts these people are?
Yeah.
To sacrifice their child's childhood for their own gain?
Yes.
Well, they certainly did that. Yes.
Just thought I'd ask.
Okay. So second roundtable topic. Much of the media is blaming the disappointing outcome of COP30 on Trump, of course, because Trump is the global boogeyman who's responsible for every failure. As Stu mentioned, Governor Newsom was there leading a U.S. delegation in place of the what normally is a U.S. delegation from the presidential administration. Are the failures of COP30 Trump's fault? Irina, you go first.
Yes, well, I wouldn't use the word fault, but I can understand the perspective. And
I mean, is he having an influence on the global debate over climate? I think that's really the question, right?
Well, he just pulled out the US from the Paris Agreement again and refused to sign up for expensive garbage in the energy field. That's all he did. But I think his very presence and the weight that the US president carries on a global level definitely shook the foundations of the whole COP concept and the idea, the admittedly extremely boring idea that every year when they meet, they'll just agree on spending more and more and more money. Now, the biggest economy in the world says they will not be spending any more money on this,
at least not for 4 years.
Was not received well. And maybe it had something to do with the EU's decision to not sign that document about the phase out of fossil fuels. I mean, they just signed an agreement, a contract, a binding contract with the Trump administration to buy $750 billion worth of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Now, leaving aside the fact that this is impossible in the time frame agreed, but they did sign up to buy a lot of fossil fuels. Yeah. So they can very well at the same time. Well, they actually could, because that's the kind of people they are. They could have signed up for the phase out of fossil fuels, but I'm sure they were afraid that, Trump would say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, it was Trump's fault, and I'm very grateful for it.
So, Stu, is it Trump's fault or credit?
I'll tell you what, I think President Trump is one of the funniest humans on the planet. Love him, hate him, he is entertainment. He's entertainment gold. And when you sit back and take a look, you have Ed Miliband, who is, in my opinion, as low as Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom is also extremely I believe Doomberg said that when you and I interviewed Doomberg, had a very, very good point, and that was he is an excellent politician and can morph at skin change into whatever he needs to do
Yeah.
in order to win a thing. So I think that President Trump has got 3 or 4 cabinet members that are not doing him any favors. But yet on the climate and the energy policies, he's got 3 members that are doing fantastic. I think we're going to see an end of the war in Russia and Ukraine, and I think that the bombings of Ukraine on the downstream assets of Russia, even in other countries, has finally taken its toll of sanctions through drones, I guess, is now a thing.
Yeah. And monetary policy. Yeah.
So I see that we're going to see an end of the war, but what does that mean to COP and the UN? I would like to see the UN thrown out of the United States. I would like to see the United States pull out of the UN and totally defund that organization, because I believe that it is tried to take the United States down. So I don't know that I could get any more plain on that, but I think that the UN is actually serving China and then actually helping China. And you sit back and take a look at what's happening with the deindustrialization of the net zero. China is pushing the net zero. Now, are they obeying the net zero? Oh, let me do my best Tony Soprano. Hey, we're going to do it in 2060. How about that? Everybody goes, okay, 2060 is okay. They're not doing a thing.
All the clapping seals. Yay.
Yay, 2060. And then they're holding us to today. By the way, shut down all your coal plants today. No, 2060 versus today. No, it does not make any sense.
Tammy, has COP30, well, first of all, you can comment on whether it's Trump's fault, but second, has COP30 outlived its usefulness now?
Absolutely.
Have the COP conferences outlived
the COP
their
conferences.
Yeah.
So they've been talking about that for a little while, where there's some groups that want to move it to a permanent thing, but don't have all these really big meetings, that there's like a secretariat that kind of runs stuff. They've been talking about that for a few years. I don't know. But I was listening because, of course, Radio 4 and in the BBC Radio 4 had like an hour, and I was in the car stuck in traffic, and I'm listening to this going on and on about COP30, and they were talking and interviewing some of the people there and stuff. And the interviewers said, does this process, do we need to just leave it go and move on to something else? And one of the people said, actually, no, it's really important to have these leaders come together in person so that pressure can be brought to bear through personal relationships. And I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because if you're on Zoom or whatever, you can just kind of go, whatever, sure, maybe we'll do something, and then not really follow through. But when you have that personal pressure, you're in the room there, you form this relationship that can make a difference, which is why the World Economic Forum has to have the meeting in person in Davos in order to leverage those personal relationships. And the lady on Radio 4 actually said we can leverage that and leverage that for action. So it's like, okay, that's one of the reasons why they keep going through this performance. And I want to give a shout out to David Zarek at the Firebreak, because he had a really good piece about sort of almost the kabuki theater that goes on at the COPs and how important that is. Yes, I think Trump was one of the reasons for, I wouldn't say architect, but one of the reasons for whatever failures they think has occurred there. I think their progress didn't go as fast and as strong as they wanted. Even the G20, which happened to overlap a little bit with COP30, the really big leaders declaration, which is like 100 and some points or whatever, the climate was mentioned 28 times
Yeah.
versus previous declarations where it was like 70 or 100 or whatever. So even like the G20 is like, well, this is stupid. I don't like Trump and America didn't want to sign on to any of that climate stuff. But again, they talked about voluntary carbon markets and so on and so forth. So it's interesting that we have this global Trump effect to sort of slow down what they're pushing for net zero. But honestly, I think that the EU and the other countries that have really been pushing for this for a long time in order to undermine America, I feel like they're just waiting. They're waiting for 2028 in the hopes
Yeah.
that a Newsom or AOC or whoever runs for the Democrats wins, and they can go back on this track, on this trajectory.
Yeah. So your comment about the utility of face-to-face meetings reminds me that this is also why the Illuminati and the Bilderbergers also meet face-to-face every year, right? So anyway, getting down the conspiracy road. All right.
Well, yes.
I love Rodney. Rodney's
Yeah.
comment is fantastic. If they didn't have these personal relationship meetings, most of the world's problems wouldn't exist. Rock
true. That's
on,
absolutely
Rodney.
right.
Today is Monday. Rock on Monday for Rodney there. Great job.
I want to add to that. Thank you for that comment, Rodney. That's really great because the person who kind of set that all up was Maurice Strong, and he did it through the first UN Earth Day climate meetings in Stockholm. And he was really big on having these he would have these private meetings and organizations and whatever adjacent to the World Economic Forum, adjacent to the Club of Rome, in order to provide that environment for the leaders could talk, like what Bilderberg says, could talk in an environment where they're not going to be recorded. They can speak freely and have these personal relationships that can be leveraged at another time to put forward the action they really want, but feel constrained by the democratic process. So this has been established for a long time.
And they still couldn't push the carbon tax, the global carbon tax. They've been talking about this for ages, and they couldn't even do that.
Yeah. Even with the support of ExxonMobil and Shell, they can't get
exactly.
it done. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, but that was Trump again. If it had been somebody else, if it had been Biden or Harris or whoever, they would have signed on in a heartbeat. So, I mean, because they were involved in all those negotiations leading up to that point. And it was Trump who was just like, no friggin' way, we're not doing that. That's stupid.
And then we would be not industrialization going on in the United States. We would continue the deindustrialization and we would continue down our decline into fiscal failure.
Like Germany.
Yeah. Like Germany, and like the UK, like the rest of the EU.
And Canada.
And Canada. Oh, that goes to those trading blocks that I keep talking about.
Yeah.
United States is going to end up doing business with Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and much of Asia, and it's going to leave the other block. The world is changing, folks, and if we don't realize that, it's going to be along the net zero line.
Yeah, it's been building with that, I would say, since COVID, right? Where you really saw that differentiation once Biden came into power. It was really a clear delineation. You had America, the EU, and all the net zero fanatics, and then you had the BRICS, because we're like, we don't want to do that. We want to do our own thing. So now, yeah, it's interesting. Like I've said before, America seems to have switched sides now, where it's like, we're going to join the BRICS countries or something, have our own little alignment.
I think you're going to see something other than BRICS come rolling in. And I think that it is BRICS did its job. And I applaud them for doing that. But if you take a look at the gold number, now I mentioned I'm going back to classes to get my day trading license so I can lose money faster. When you go back in, I give no investment advice, but I'm learning from my father, who has been a day trader for 20 years and is doing quite well. I'm like, hey, why am I working so hard? I'm going to follow him. So you sit back and look at the financial things going on around the world. what is the number one change in the global economics right now? Financing of gold. People are buying gold hand over fist to go away from the petrodollar. Is the petrodollar dead? No, it's about down to 58%. And you take a look at what's going on in the petrodollar. Now, if the petrodollar going to kill the U.S. dollar? No, the U.S. dollar is following the way of the British pound sterling. But you take a look at the investments coming into the United States by trying to reindustrialize. All of this is tied together. And it is an amazing thing that when you see net zero equals deindustrialization equals new trading blocks, this is a big issue.
Big fat hairy deal.
And it's
Okay,
all
we have
tied to
one more
gold now.
comment from Rodney McKinnis. We have to defeat the climate hysteria globally while Trump is in office. The door has been open to win this war for humanity, but time is limited because we don't know who will be in power next for the United States.
It's not enough time.
It's not enough time.
Yeah.
This is why Steve Bannon and others keep saying we need a third Trump term because 3 more years is not enough time to accomplish all that.
Yeah, no,
I
the
think that's
brainwashing has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
can I just clarify the comment I made earlier about the Volkswagen factories in China?
Yes.
They're normally it takes 50 months to develop a vehicle, and the article said that operating in China reduces that by 30%, which means it's 15 months. So it reduces the process by 15 months.
Wow.
Which
That's
is
still amazing. That's
still a lot.
That's
So
incredible.
35 months to.
And the EU government should be embarrassed by that fact that a communist government is able to move so much more quickly.
They're
we don't
shameless
have
as
a
Gavin Newsom.
government yet. Please.
Okay, let's wrap this up and go to the article, Stu. I think it's time.
There you go. I think I got these right. I'm smoking crack evidently today as we started a little late this morning. But Tammy, are these your stories?
Morning,
or my...
Yeah, those are my stories. So it's basically all about the memorandum of understanding between Alberta and the federal government in Ottawa about maybe what it will take to get an oil pipeline to the Pacific coast. And there's some people out there who are praising this as a big victory, but when you read the details, it's not really that great a thing. And there's been other articles like the New York Times and Semaphore where they're saying it's a done deal, that this is an agreement. It's a memorandum, a memo of understanding, which means nothing. It's not binding. It's not an accord. It's not an agreement. It's like, okay, we agree we're going to talk more about these things. We're going to have an implementation committee set up maybe in April. We're going to talk about stuff. And I think what I would say for, I'll just talk a little bit about the specifics of what's in this memorandum of understanding. Alberta commits to sinking money into carbon capture storage, and it's the absolute requirement to even think about an oil pipeline. Alberta agrees to increase the number of interconnections to try and reduce the amount of natural gas that it uses for its power, seems to be the subtext there. And so this is hilarious because the agreement or the accord, sorry, not even the accord, the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, says that it's really important for LNG to go to Asia. So on the one hand, they're encouraging Alberta to develop nuclear power to generate electricity while exporting their abundant natural gas to Asia for electricity. And they're supposed to phase out their power facilities that are on natural gas. Do you see how it's kind of like, okay, we have all this natural, we're not allowed to use it for power by 2050.
It's just all about virtue signaling about climate, right? To burnish your domestic numbers while shipping it all to Asia to create the emissions anyway.
Australia.
Yeah,
exactly.
Was doing.
Exactly. And so these are some of the details. Ottawa seems to have not agreed to anything. They said, okay, we have this emissions cap that we've talked about. It's not in place, and we're probably not going to bring it into effect unless you decide not to do carbon capture. Then they talked a lot about supporting this and supporting that. Words are cheap. Then they said, we're committing to a 2-year process, which is already part of the major projects office. So I don't know, they're agreeing to something that already exists. They talked about Indigenous ownership of stuff, which is already a requirement. So then they're not actually repealing or amending any of the legislation that's a problem. They're basically saying, we're going to grant some exemptions to Alberta, maybe, if they comply with all these different things. So the bigger picture is that basically, by signing this memorandum of understanding, they're allowing Mark Carney to act like a king with a court. And he keeps talking about a rules-based order. He criticizes America all the time that they're undermining a rules-based order, and Canada's committed to a rules-based order, but the rules don't seem to apply in Canada. They're not following the law. They're exempting things. They're not repealing. They're not amending. So these decisions can be revoked at any time if you're displeasing. Based on what criteria? Who knows? It'll be whatever he feels like tomorrow. So, by accepting these exemptions, Alberta's basically conceding that the federal government, number one, has a right to impose clean electricity standards, which constitutionally it doesn't. It's also conceding that the federal government can act like a king in a court to make decisions based on whatever the whims of the day. So I just hope he doesn't eat any sauerkraut, because maybe he'll be grumpy and then say, I'm revoking these exemptions. So, and then lastly, my last point in this, and then I'll shut up, is that, I'm really concerned about some of the rhetoric coming out that we should just be happy Mark Carney agreed to something, sort of, in a memorandum of understanding, and stop criticizing stuff because people just don't want to win. Well, I'm going to be realistic and call it out that I don't think this is a win for anybody except Ottawa, because they get Alberta to make all kinds of concessions, supposedly, before action can even happen. And it's supposed to create certainty for investment. What investment is going to go forward where they have to make all of these commitments for carbon capture storage before they can even consider a pipeline? And who's going to do a pipeline when the province it has to cut through and the Indigenous groups say no, and the federal government still has a tanker ban in place? And they're like, maybe we'll think about changing the tanker ban once people come forward and agree to build a pipeline. Who's going to do that?
Nobody.
Nope.
So they'll spend all this money for carbon capture, and in the end, it won't be able to go anywhere. So that's my little 2 cents.
Yeah, well, hopefully, just because it's a memorandum of understanding for Ottawa, it's also a memorandum of understanding for Alberta. So they might not do it. Hopefully.
I don't know.
Really weird.
It's very weird.
Political theater.
Yes.
You got to love it. Great Substack.
It is wonderful. Oh, I
It
love
is
that
the
illustration in the
Report
middle there. That's
Substack.
awesome.
Yeah, I was marveling at
fantastic.
that.
Yeah, the sticky web.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's on Substack, the NemethReport.substack.com. You can find my writings and podcast there. Thank you.
Did you use Grok to create that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, man. Grok's getting really good.
Yeah, getting much better.
Okay. Okay. Gee whiz, what do we got here? Let's do the second one first. Thanksgiving gas prices fall to lowest level since the pandemic. 30 states below $3 a gallon. I put that in there because I went to fill up my car, which unfortunately is a Japanese car that says you got to use premium. But regular gas at the station where I get my gas here in North Texas was $2.29 a gallon. It's the lowest I've seen. I just can't really remember seeing regular gas prices that low anywhere. So, maybe 30, 40 years ago. So it's really low, and that's cheap gasoline, and it's just because of a number of factors. But still, the media is complaining that it isn't low enough because oil prices are lower now than they were a year ago, and it's only a little bit lower than under Biden a year ago, and yada yada. People are never satisfied. You adjust these prices for inflation, and gasoline prices in the United States are lower than they were in the mid 1970s. Okay, adjusted for inflation. That's the truth. That's the fact. People need to stop whining about gasoline prices. Second, here in the United States.
But Trump can never do anything right. It won't
Right,
matter. It
exactly.
could go down to $1 a gallon, and they'll still say it's Trump's
Exactly.
fault about something.
I mean, you still
And-
got the media claiming we're in a recession when consumers are going to spend $250 billion over the Black Friday weekend, all-time high. Consumer
Wow.
spending up 9.1% year over year on Black Friday. I mean, this economy is booming, and we still have the media claiming we're in a recession. It's insane.
It's
Stu, what
Trump's
were you going to
fault.
say? Yes,
It's Trump's fault. But on the
Okay.
other hand, when you take a look at the oil industry, everybody is saying we're in an oil glut.
Yeah.
We're also saying that this is a global market, and they're saying, wait a minute, as soon as the war is over, the price is going to drop through the floor because all these extra Russian oil barrels are going to come on the oil. I don't think so. I'm thinking once they remove the floor for the Russian oil, the price is going to go up because we are short trillions of dollars. And I'm the only one in the room. Yep, I'm the only one in the room saying that oil is going to go up because they're short. Now, when, I don't know, but it's going to go up because we do not, 80% of the world is living off the 80% of the oil produced in the world today is in declining fields.
Yep.
It is a normal decline curve that happens to oil and gas. Guess what happens? We're going to need trillions to be put into it rather than the trillions that went into renewable wind and solar. It needs to shift to something else. Anyway,
Yes, it
sorry,
does.
David. I did not mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. My second story is about John Kerry, who was, I think it's just totally appropriate, knighted by King Charles, the other big climate scold over there in the UK, decided to award John Kerry, the US's, along with Al Gore, one of the two main climate scolds here in the United States in this century, with a knighthood, which is
Oh
just
my gosh.
ludicrous.
What?
I mean, John
I
Kerry's
didn't know that.
a lifelong fraud. And anyway, during that, he said nasty things about Trump and United States CEOs. I wrote a piece at the Daily Caller about it. Y'all can go read that. It's up there live today, and it's very entertaining. And I will turn this over. I don't want to take up any more time because we're running short. There's my Substack. My Daily Caller piece, as it happens, is also at the top of my Substack, so you can go there and read it too.
I love Jeff. Jeff Chestnut. We have an oil glut. We have a media with accelerated Sorry, Jeff.
Jeff is great. Yeah. So my stories are 2 weeks old, but I really like them, so I haven't looked for new ones. So the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer had this idea to start taxing EV drivers. I don't know what happened with it in the end. Did it remain in the budget? Did she even present the budget?
She did last week. It was on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Or
So
Wednesday.
that's good news because someone's starting to think that EV drivers get all the benefits and none of the responsibilities except for, observing the traffic code or whatever it's called. But yeah, I wonder how this will impact EV sales in the UK, even with the subsidies. But it will probably not impact them negatively because they also approved a package of, what was it? A couple of £billion to support more EV sales while taxing EV drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, these people are
It's a bold
financial
strategy.
geniuses. Yeah, amazing. Even more amazing is Germany, which has been using a lot more gas than usual for this time of the year because it was colder than usual, and that's hampering Europe's stockpiling drive. It isn't, it's hampering Germany's stockpiling drive. Most countries have filled up their reserves. Germany is being slow because it's using it. And I made a screenshot a couple of weeks ago. The rate at which Germany was filling its gas storage was like a tenth or 100th from the rate with which it was withdrawing. Germany is using a lot of gas, which is why it's also building new LNG import facilities, which it's going to be using for green hydrogen in the dreams of those who approve that construction. In the meantime, it's going to be importing even more LNG. So that's good news for American exporters. Well done, exporters. And also in the meantime, this just in from today, the Eurozone's PMI is below 50 again. Huge surprise. I'm amazed that Reuters didn't lead with the headline shocking or surprising.
Yes,
but it didn't. So if even Reuters has dropped the pretense, then it's really bad. And guys, we're joining that very same Eurozone next month.
Oh, poor you.
Great. Yeah,
Oh,
it's fun. It's fun to
Yes.
be in Europe.
another wonderful Substack.
Thank you. And you can find me at Irina Slav on Energy. Apparently, my readers don't want me to rebrand because they don't have a sense of humor. And I'm joking when I say this because my readers have the best sense of humor on the whole of Substack. Thank you, everyone, for reading my writings.
I get my Irina fix when I listen to your articles. So I listen while I write other articles, and it makes me funnier listening to you. So great job.
Yeah, I want to get Irina to narrate my articles because I tried doing it 3 or 4 times and nobody listened to the damn thing. So they don't want to hear me.
Well, Eeyore is not as nice sounding as Irina. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't do an American accent. I could try. It would probably be hilarious.
You can't do Texas.
I love your accent, especially when you're being so sarcastic. It's great.
Yeah, my accent's pretty bad, especially when I really hope it down here. Hey, I gotta thank Governor Newsom again for his hair gel usage and his petroleum base.
Petroleum based, isn't it? Yeah.
He is absolutely eviscerating the California problems. Texas oil mogul at war with California over an offshore bounty. I'm going to reach out to the CEO of Sable Energy and James Flores. I'm going to try to visit with him about this. California is facing shutting down. They lose $2 million a month in their main pipeline. Once you lose that main pipeline in there, oops, then you have not only that, you have climate change. Bob goes to COP30. He goes down there and says, we're here to support you guys, but yet we're now importing 70% of California's oil is imported from China, Iran, Iraq. They just imported, are you ready for, was it last week? They imported jet fuel that was it was refined in India that was shipped in from Russia.
From Russia.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really saving the planet. Way to go, Climate Bob. I'll tell you what, that is just amazing. And so when you look at Kern County, David, they have got 2,000 permits. They're down to 13 permits in 2025 from thousands. By law, California just put in a new law that says, oh, by the way, we're going to allow 2,000 permits in Kern County. I want to go on record on this podcast how many are going to be actually issued, because the people in Kern County are going to go, do you want a permit? And they're going to slow walk that permit all the way down. It's going to make our old leader of the Senate, the turtle. What was his name?
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
It's going to make him seem fast. I guarantee you, they're going to slow walk these permits in. My other story is Russia's oil and gas revenues may fall. I saw this on oilprice.com that Reuters wrote, and then I stole it, and then I rewrote my own story. So, this is called rewriting your own story here. In a significant blow to Russia's wartime economy, state revenues, they did their calculations. I'm doing my mathing. Russia's going to be just fine after the war because they're going to quit paying for the dark fleet when the sanctions are lifted. There's a floor that they're going to be doing. Russia's going to be just fine. And the loser in this is the corruption that is now surfacing that we all know Ukraine is a crime scene. Let's go to the next story here. Boy, I'm on a roll this morning. I need more coffee. Not only did I send the wrong link out to you guys, I'm over here. I'm a legend in my own mind being funny. What if Venezuela oil is shut down and we get peace in Ukraine? I take a look at the oil prices in this article. We have a no-fly zone over Venezuela this morning. And so is that because we're about to strike something, or did the leader of Venezuela call up and go, "Hey, I don't want to have a war with you"? He sent 2 airplanes to buzz the USS Gerald Ford and said he made it change course. Oh, they were unarmed. There were no bombs on those things. And our military could sit there and look at those and go, those don't have any weapons on them. So they let them fly by. Maduro turns that and says, "I stood up against the military." Right, dude, you'd better leave. Anyway. Well,
he's fixing to be deposed, and the United States is going to revitalize the Venezuelan oil industry.
Yes. But right now they produce about a barrel and a half a week. Yeah. And so it's really
Chevron's still producing. Chevron gets, they're exempt from all that. Chevron is somehow still in there producing.
And they are, but this is about China's involvement in South America. Yeah. Don't make any mistakes. It's not talked about in the mainstream media. Yeah. This is about the Monroe Doctrine and the United States. We still have 2 ports owned by China on each end of the Panama Canal. Has not been fixed yet.
That's right.
Did they sell them?
They
were supposed to sell Larry Fink and BlackRock, but that didn't actually happen.
It didn't go.
All right.
Yeah. So they're still owned, but we happen to have a lot more military guys sitting there looking at everything, but that doesn't mean everything yet. It's not fixed.
There's a reason why, folks, that about 40% of the United States' naval fleet is massed in the Caribbean right now.
Yeah.
And you can find me on theenergynewsbeat.substack.com or energynewsbeat.co or energynewsbeat.com. And this was a fun show. Thanks for letting me just absolutely. Yeah.
It was such fun.
This was fun. And I appreciate everybody for being patient and cooperating so well with my deft guidance of the discussion. And
absolutely.
Thank God I won't be doing it again for a month. Anyway, appreciate everybody joining in. We're out of time. And Stu, what last word for the good of the order?
We are going to have a fantastic week, and I guarantee you that the world is healing. And I feel that even there is hope for the UK, Canada, and the EU. I think that
what about the UN and COP?
Absolutely. UN and COP. I think the UN is going to be eviscerated and defunded. And I think that that's going to actually be a great thing when you have people like Greta looking for becoming a secretary, or
hey, maybe she can dye the Caribbean green.
There you go. Or
surely there's plenty of dye for that.
Who was on the Love Boat? The lady that was the cruise director for the Love Boat. Maybe Greta could be the cruise director for a Carnival cruise. She would be great at that.
There you go.
All right. And with that, let's end this one before I go totally.
Yeah. Boy, I got all kinds of stuff.
Thanks for the comments. Have a great week.